There was $2 million on the table this weekend in Abu Dhabi. $2 million that would go to the winner of the final race of the SailGP 2025 season. Only 3 teams would have the chance. So, you might expect that come the fleet racing, the favourites would be at the front. But you'd be wrong. To see them fighting for that fat bonus, you'd have to look at the back of the fleet. At least that was the case on day 1. This said a great deal about this season. It has seen the closest racing, the biggest spread of event winners, the end of the Australian dominance, and the first time that there would be no overall favourite going into the final winner-take-all race. Coming out of the penultimate event in Spain, Emirates GBR were leading the overall rankings, 3 points ahead of the Kiwi Black Foils, who in turn were 2 points ahead of the Australian Bonds Flying Roos. Behind them, the Spanish Los Gallos were lurking 4 points outside the 3-boat selection for the final in 4th. In reality, the British and Kiwi teams were pretty much certain to make the final, which meant that the focus for the racing in Abu Dhabi would be mainly on the battle between the Spanish and the Australians. In the press conference, Australian driver Tom Slingsby was asked about how he would deal with the pressure.
I was asked the other day about, there any mind games going on with the top 4 teams, and I just sort of said it's a waste of time getting involved in that stuff. All these guys up here have won gold medals, had so much pressure on them at the Olympics and America's Cup and everything, so it's one of those things where you just can't focus on the other teams. You've got to focus on yourself. And we've just got to perform the best we can this weekend. And if we do, we're in with a real good shot. If we don't, there's no chance we're going to win. Diego's an unbelievable competitor. And if I'm honest, I was asked the other day, who would you least like on your hammer? And it would definitely be Diego and Spain. I just think that he's built for these sorts of moments.
We are in a good position in the sense that we just can look forward. We will be all in this weekend, and the venue and the conditions also are appropriate to enhance our chances to make it into the final. No, a small course, light winds. It's a bit more a game of anyone than any other venue. So yeah, things can happen. Obviously, these teams are super good, and it's hard that they do mistakes or they end up back in the leaderboard after the weekend. But yeah, we're gonna just make our chances, and depending on the condition and how it goes, our strategy may change.
Dylan Fletcher was keeping things cool.
I mean, everyone on this stage, is incredibly strong as a team, and we've all got our strengths and weaknesses, but ultimately we're just trying to focus on ourselves. It's all going to come down to firstly qualifying for the grand final, but then ultimately just one race and giving it everything. So, we've done our analysis, we've done our work, and now it's just time to deliver.
But there were other stories too. Peter Burling sliced his finger open during practice and was taken to hospital, putting him in doubt for the racing.
Had an incident in training yesterday where I ended up with a reasonably decent cut on my finger. So yeah, no sailing for me today, and we'll just kind of monitor the situation as it goes. But not the ideal way to build up to the grand final, but we kind of come here, we feel like team's in great shape, and doing everything I can to recover and make sure I'm ready to go.
Phil Robertson was back, now wearing an Italian shirt and back to his usual tough talk in front of the cameras.
Were there other offers on the table?
I was talking to a lot of teams, and I think some of the drivers will be quite shocked to hear that.
Sadly, no one asked who. Meanwhile, every team had to get to grips with new kit, as the fleet was fitted with the new 27.5 metre wings. And to add to the stress, the light 5 knots forecast meant that teams would sail with just 3 crew. So, whether you were defending your honour or fighting for a big bag of cash, there was pressure on everyone. In barely 5 knots of breeze, the first race was a slow one. The Swiss were in the best shape off the start, with the Brazilians close behind. By the first leeward gate, Rockwool Denmark had squeezed their way to the front. But by the windward gate 3, they had conceded a penalty to the German team, who sailed off the front into clear air to take the first win of the event. Given their improving performance all season, this was perhaps not a surprise. But to see the big guns down the pan was a shocker. New Zealand was 7th, the British 9th, Australia 10th, and the Spanish last. But this was just the start of a stress-fueled day. And we didn't have to wait long for some more, as Spain and Australia jumped the gun at the start of race 2, which kept them at the back of the fleet. The British started cleanly, but fared even worse, finishing 11th. Meanwhile, the Kiwis were midfield in 5th. But one team that was showing good form was Rockwool Denmark. Second in the first race, now first in the second, consistency in these conditions was impressive. And in race 3, the Danish team showed it was no fluke as they took another win. But it was a repeat performance for the Australians, who jumped the start gun once again. And while they did claw their way back, it was still only to 8th, 1 place ahead of the British in 9th. The Spanish finished in 5th, which put further pressure on this key battle for the final. By this stage, Rockwool Denmark was leading the event by 9 points. This time the Australians got off to a good start, but slipped back into 6th by the first leeward gate. They recovered a place to finish in 5th, and with the Spanish having a disaster of a race in 11th, there were signs that things were getting much more challenging for Los Gallos if they wanted to get into the final. On the other hand, things were looking very bright for the Danes, as a second in this race stretched their overall points lead, bringing the $800,000 event prize into view.
I think it just came down to having a really good sort of atmosphere between Ed now and TJ and myself. It's first time we're sailing with Ed, obviously, so in the 3-up. So yeah, it was just good communication, and we found each other easily to work with, and it was perfect.
Yeah, it's obviously extremely stressful. We're obviously in a bit of a different race than the normal race of trying to win the event. So we're just trying to keep control of Spain. And it's very hard in those conditions. It's very hard to, someone just gets a gust, or the helicopters get too close, which happened a few times today, and boats just take off, and there's not much you can do about it. But we're just trying to control the situation as best we can. And for us, we're in a better position now than we were at the start of the day. No, it doesn't look like that when you're back in 10th overall, but as long as Spain's behind us, we're happy.
It was a very light and tough day. The starts get a lot of weight in these days, and we push for it, and that made us also make a couple of mistakes that, obviously the results doesn't show it, but we are quite happy with the attitude we went out there, and happy not with the result, but how things are going for us, and we will keep pushing tomorrow, even though things are not super hopeful for us.
Day 2 delivered slightly more breeze, 5 to 10 knots, enough to increase the crew from 3 to 4. But it was still very patchy. Reading the conditions ahead and predicting where the puffs would be was crucial. But some things stayed the same, namely Australia's ability to score own goals, as they were dealt a boundary penalty in the pre-start. Switzerland and Canada got off to a good start with the British and Spanish midfield, but New Zealand was buried deep and Australia last. But things were to change quickly on this course of snakes and ladders. Emirates Great Britain took a win, and the Australians came back to finish 5th and overtake the Spanish. With one fleet race left, the runway was now running out for Los Gallos. What happened in this race no longer mattered for the British, so jumping the start gun didn't affect their place in the final. But for the Spanish, to be there with them, they needed to win the race, and the Australians come last. A big ask, but with the Australians in 11th and Los Gallos looking at 3rd, they came tantalisingly close to achieving it. For the Danes, as they made a perfect start, the $800,000 prize was getting closer, and coming second to the French was easily enough for the cash to be theirs. But the season's top dogs were to be found further back in the pack. With the British in 6th, the Kiwis in 7th and Australia in 11th, these were the three that were now heading to the grand final and a much bigger prize. Fewer boats on the course and a hint of more breeze meant the three teams had to change gear. As Tom Slingsby's Flying Roos took the lead off the start, their perfect timing looked set to be the key move in this race, as it had often been in the previous 6. But not this one. Each mark rounding saw threats, opportunities and lead changes. At some point during the race, each team had led and lost. But the most significant point was the second windward gate. The British had been in phase with the shifts and gusts up this leg and had got themselves back into contention. Splitting from the other two at the top saw them in stronger breeze sailing a better angle to stretch out a commanding lead going into the leeward gate for the last time. From here they sailed fast, defended well and crossed the finish in the lead to take their $2 million bonus plus another $400,000 for winning the season.
It's unbelievable, to be honest. I think that to be racing here, you know, not just taking out the grand final, but to be win on points, win the Impact League, where we're all in the same equipment. It's just sailor versus sailor. I think it means an enormous amount.
It's wild. Yeah, I can't actually believe it. You know, it's just everyone's so good, the level's so high, the racing's so hard, and you know, we prepared as well as we could for that final race, and we kind of executed what we wanted to do. Obviously didn't win the start, but after that I think sailed the race we wanted to sail and to be proud of, and came through with the win. So yeah, just absolutely buzzing for the team.
I got to be honest, I was pretty nervous and tense. You know, watching from the shore is a totally different emotion from actually being out on the boat. It's much more emotional, that's for sure. But you know, they've sailed brilliantly, not only this event but all season. So there was some confidence that they would keep it tight. They did. They made some really good decisions. Obviously, I think that was one of the classic SailGP finals races. And again, just super proud of the team for holding together, pulling through, and getting the win when they needed it.
When you're leading, second place is going to do something different. And so we thought, you know what, let's just get a clean rounding, clean lap, try to be fast. And yeah, unfortunately we came out of that bottom mark in a big header, tacked over, and we got another big header and light pressure going back the other way. And yeah, we'd lost a 100-metre lead in a matter of 30, 40 seconds. So it was pretty tough.
Took the route we want up the first beat to get quite a healthy lead, and then that one mistake at the top mark obviously gave the British a massive jump. So definitely a bit of what could have been. You know, could have pretty easily gone the right turn at the top and would have made our life a lot easier than it was. So yeah, definitely a bit of frustration our end, but I think we've got to be proud of the race we put together and the season we put together, and yeah.
I look back on the season and go, oh, we gave away this there, we gave away this there. You know, it feels like we could have done so much more. But it's nice that, you know, we won on all the stats of the events and everything. So to come away and then take that pressure and win that grand final, we went into it going, well, ultimately, if someone said, you know, you went into a lottery with a 33% chance of winning $2 million, you'd snap their hand off. So we just gave it everything, and win or lose, we would enjoy it.
This might not have been the breeziest season for SailGP, but there's little doubt that watching boats hit 20 knots in just over 5 knots of breeze is resetting the bar for everyone. Season 5 has also been full of drama, from structural issues to collisions and capsizes. There has also been a new level of stress thanks to the circuit of 12 events around the world. But the thing that has really stood out this season has been the close competition. SailGP has always had top sailors, but now it has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to racing talent. Placed on identical boats with open access to an incredible amount of competitor data. And this is what you get. 2025 has not just been an exception, but some are now asking whether the event is changing gear as it becomes impossible to dominate the racing. 2026 looks set to tell us. And Perth, Western Australia is the first stop on the 17th and 18th of January. So, just one last thing for all those who are wondering what this season's bonus prize money looked like for the teams. As the saying goes, nice work if you can get it.